We can
All
chill for a
right.
minute.
We could chill for a minute, and we are
can chill
chilling
for a
live.
minute to
And
let
this is
people get on.
man, that is just not my style. So let's go.
Wait.
Everybody, Zach Martin here. Happy New Year. Happy New Year,
Happy
Paul
New
and Alicia.
Year.
Good to see you guys. Excited to be with you guys here today. Paul's got one of my favorite hoodies on right now, and they won this weekend. Go Pokes, man. Last second field goal. Wow, dude, that was so dope. You don't get no better than that. Craig Bull going out on top, tearing it too. Who did beat up? Toledo? That's what he beat down on at one point. It was fun. It was fun. God, I love the Pokes. I didn't go to a game with my son this year. It's the first year since he was in 7 years. It's his first year that he hasn't been to a Pokes game live, and I just didn't have him for a weekend that they had home games. It was just a really bad situation, I guess, along that route. And anyways, Paul, you like Pokes games? You ever go to a Pokes game?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You're wearing a hoodie from Wyoming. Yeah.
Your sweater.
That's the Wyoming logo in our corporate logo, but yeah, no, I don't get into sports.
Well, you know what? I like the Pokes, so I'm not sure I get into that much Pokes, but that logo on your hoodie looks dope to me. So, anyways, go Pokes! They won, and I'm happy about that. So, let's get started. I just wanted to say hi and introduce everybody. So, Alicia, my co-host, welcome and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And then here with us live today is a friend of ours and dad and an advocate and really just a great all-around guy doing his thing, Paul Propst, and wanted to give him a shout out. So welcome, Paul. Thanks for coming on today with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad to reconnect with y'all. Well, Zach, you and I just talked maybe 4 or 5 days ago, but Alicia, I haven't talked with you in a while, so great to do that again.
We live in the same town, right? Are you still in Casper?
Right now I'm in Fort Worth. I'm going back and forth because my daughter lives in Fort Worth, and then running my business is based out of Casper. So I go back and forth. And right now I'm trying to stay in Fort Worth as long as possible because I don't want to be a part of the cold weather and the snow. I love Wyoming. Used to be up there years ago before my mess. Love it up there. I just don't like the snow. I don't like the wind. The wind is what sucks.
Yeah, definitely.
And Casper's got a ton of it.
So are you in Casper again?
Who? Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I've been here. That's what me and Zach were talking about earlier. Is it's like we lived here in the same city and didn't ever connect with you.
We gotta hang out.
Yeah, I had lived up there. Well, I was consistently there from May until about November. And then pretty much I came back to Texas and I've been going back and forth, right? I'd come back to Texas for 1 week a month. But anyways, I never realized that. Would have got a hold of you because I used to like Bayou's my spot. That's where I always went. So
the Bayou?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my
I didn't know where the Bayou is.
It's a little tiny place.
Yeah.
I lived right down I'm trying to think of it's a pretty popular bar. I haven't been to Casper. I lived right above Felony Flats. So I was in like the nicer homes above Felony Flats. If you guys are familiar with that we are. I know you are.
Off 25th.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Yeah, up off 25th.
Yep. Yeah. Sagewood, that was my area up there. So
all right.
Anyways.
All right. Enough about Casper.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Okay. All right.
Like really.
I mean, Casper's got some great history. At least it has connection with all three of us. And I will be there January 21st, I think, for a wrestling tournament. So when are you going to be back in town, Paul? You don't know, probably after winter, sometime in the summertime?
That's the plan, but it just all depends on what goes on. I just might get a wild hair and be like, jump on a plane and go up there. Because the place that I stay at up there is right in PV, right on the Platte River.
Oh,
so
nice.
Dope.
I love walking out the back door and right there's the river,
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a great spot, man.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a beautiful area out there in PV. So way out on the west side, you guys got a Walmart though, so that's all you need. So
That's it.
right, got a Walmart. That's all. It's all there. Anyways, so wanted to bring Paul on today. You know, we've been doing a lot of talking with different parents and different activists, going through different experiences. And Paul's got a unique experience with his daughter and being in her life and how that path has taken him. So I'd like to kind of have Paul just give us a little background on your experience as being a dad and how that's gone.
Man, you know, it's been tough. We started the whole process with family court when my daughter was 5 months old. As we were talking about Casper, I worked for a company based out of Casper, and we were a nationwide industrial services company. So we did scaffolding, insulation, coatings, all that stuff. I was a superintendent for them. So I was all over the place. And anyways, you know, Mom and I were on again, off again. And of course, I met her when I came down here for a job in Texas. And that was an on again, off again thing. And then I had some time off of work. And at that time, my actual home base was Illinois. And so I was back home in Illinois hanging out. And, you know, she got back a hold of me again. And we met halfway in Joplin, Missouri, and a Hilton Hotel and a bottle of Captain. And there we go.
And your dad.
Yeah. So, you know, at the time I was moving and shaking. The company was growing, and I was growing with the company. And so I don't know, she was 5-6 months pregnant, and basically, you know, the owner wanted me in Casper, and was like, okay, all right, cool, let's do this. I'm going to make Casper home base. And I said, all right, so pack your stuff and move on up here to Casper and let's do this. You're pregnant, you know, right? And she wasn't having it. She wanted to stay in Fort Worth. So anyways, we ended up staying together. After the child was born, I took 3 months off of work, came to Fort Worth and you know, worked remote as much as I could. And because at that time it was kind of moving in a different way with me with work. And I was just running the job sites remote. And so anyways, I was in my child's life from day one for the first 3 months. And then it just got to the point we had a big job open up in Pocatello. So I had to shoot on up to Pocatello. And while I was up there, she decided to file, and the process server tried to chase me around a job site. That was quite funny and entertaining.
So when you say file, sorry.
No.
When you say file, what do you mean?
She had filed with the courts for custody and child support. Yeah. Okay. So, anyways,
I want to hear about the process server chasing you around a job site. Let's dive into that a little bit. That sounds like an interesting experience.
Well, what was great about that is you had to be badged to be on that job site. So
okay.
The process servers at security. Well, I made real nice with the security while I was working there. And anyways, they called me and they said, hey, there's this process server. He's down here looking for you. And at the time we had some lawsuits going on with the company. So I figured that's what it was. You know what I mean? And so I gave her a call. I gave Mom a call and I said, hey, are you starting up some court nonsense? I said, I really need to know, because this is over you or this is over some lawsuits that we have going on with the company. And she's like, well, no, this is what we need to do. Even though I was willingly going above and beyond my financial duty, you know, I've always taken care of my kid. I didn't need a court to tell me how to do that. And which is kind of funny, that whole process. We go to court and she ends up getting $36 more a month than what I was willingly paying her on my own. But she had some attorney tell her that she could get abundance amount of money. And it's just, anyways, you know.
Yeah.
So
how much when you went to court, how long did the court process take?
So that took 5 months, and that wasn't on my part. That was just on the system's part. And, you know, of course we were unmarried, so I had no rights. So I went since she decided to start the court process, and the attorney told her that, hey, I don't have any rights, and hey, you don't have to let him see the kid. I went 5 months without seeing my kid. And so it really sucked. But we got into court in April, a month before my daughter's first birthday. So at least I was able to have my daughter on her first birthday and share that with her. But yeah, so I went 5 months without seeing her because of the court process. Just because that whole thing takes time.
Good grief.
That was in April.
Sorry. Go ahead. You're fine. I was just going to say that's what I was going to ask, is how long did you have to wait?
Yeah. And that was, and I threw a lot of money at it. I had the money to do it. And that was even with throwing money at it. It's just the court docket is what it is, So anyways, that was in April. And I asked the court for 1 week and a month, and I didn't even know if I could do that because my workload was so heavy at that time. And so anyways, I got my 1 week and a month, and I did that for the month of April, May, June, July. And then in July, I just said, forget this. And I knew myself. It's the rain. Anyways, I knew myself and how I operated within my job, right? Because I was all in, dude. I'm 110%. I don't care whether I'm doing the right thing or the wrong thing. I'm 110% in. And
like a commitment.
I need to walk away from this career, and I need to go to Texas, and I need to take this on. I can't take this on being in Wyoming.
Right.
So that's what I did, and it was a very hard thing for me to do. A lot of opportunity. There was some ownership on the line there for me. But I walked away from it and come down here to battle it. And I really thought that, I would get more than every other weekend, because it's like, ta-da, I'm here. Right. You know what I mean? And I went broke doing it. I literally lost everything, and not all of it was the court's fault or the court's involvement, but I made some financial decisions that weren't very smart. So, I've got my part in it too. But anyways, long story short, I got every other weekend, and I'm like, this is ridiculous, because I went through this as a kid when I was 8, and that's what it was back then. And I'm like, no, times have changed. This is over 20 years ago. I can get more time. And anyways, no, that's just the way that it is. So anyways, I'm like, well, this is ridiculous. And I got involved. Actually, I got court ordered to a nonprofit resource organization in Fort Worth. That nonprofit actually had they had a person in the courthouse. They had an office there, and they just walk with people on what they're going from. And anyway, so I went through their resources, went through the court ordered resources, got all that done. And the guy that I was dealing with, I said, hey, look, I still got this problem. What now? This woman still hates my guts. So what do I do? And so anyways, he's like, well, all those classes that you took, he said, why don't you just keep coming back as a volunteer basis? And I said, okay. And so I did that. And, I did that for a period of months, and the guy came to me and he was like, hey, he said, what do you think about facilitating these classes? And I'm like, it's a horrible idea. I'll do it. Right? I've got nothing else to do, because I uprooted my whole life and moved to Fort Worth. I don't know anybody here. I don't care for it here. I'm not a suburbia person. Right? Mm-hmm. Y'all understand that. I came from Casper.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
if you have a choice, Fort Worth or Wyoming, it's a no-brainer, right?
Wow. Right. Yeah. And then plus before that, I grew up in central farm America in Illinois, so, there was 98 people in my graduating class. So, that's what I was used to. So, Fort Worth is not my thing. So anyways, I became a facilitator, and I was a facilitator. They had 3 different classes that I got involved with. One is Father's Focus. And it's just standard fundamentals of of parenting, right? Because there's a lot of people that just don't understand parenting. Like they don't come with a manual, right? We just figure it out.
No joke.
And it's just all about it. Right.
That's the only
yeah,
thing you get. The only thing you take home that doesn't have a manual, right? You get your TV or like a computer and stuff, and it's got a manual like this thick, right? Like everything you could possibly ever want to know is all written inside that. You get a kid, which is the most ultimate responsibility, and they're like, here's a blanket. good luck.
Right, exactly.
Don't fuck it up.
Yeah, back then when I bought an $80,000 truck, it came with a manual. I knew about all the services and all that stuff, and not with the kids. So essentially that's what Father's Focus is. And on top of it, because of the people coming through Father's Focus are dealing with CPS or going through family court, so we were able to help navigate that. So because of going through that, I was able to understand the system and how it operated. And then I branched off from there. Then I got involved. With different groups of people down here in Texas. I got involved with Ryan, with the unmarried father, at the starting point of the unmarried father. I think when I got on board with that, there was around like 2,000 or 3,000 followers, and now it's up to like close to 200K.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Right.
Next couple days.
It's a big deal.
Next couple days.
Yeah. So, my main focus out of all this was to understand the system and how to navigate it. Right. Because I had a number of clients, I always got pulled in people's behalf and stuff like that. And, I got to walk with these people through their messes and still dealing with my mess at the same time.
Right. Tell me about how facilitating those programs and stuff, how did that support you in coping with the stuff you're going through with family court and trying to be involved in your daughter's life?
That when you're up there, right? And I use the word facilitator because that's what it is, because we're just steering the conversations in these classes. But essentially, when people are looking up at that person, that's the teacher of the class. So I took that very serious. So anyways, one thing is what I didn't want to be was a hypocrite. So being a facilitator for those classes, it really helped me hold myself more accountable for what was going on in my mess. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I was still making mistakes, right? But I think my mistake ratio was extremely lower than what it could have been if I wasn't in that position, because I was really, I was really self-aware of that. And I was successful with relating with people because I was right there on where they're at, and I got to share with them my mistakes. They get some type of text message. Well, look at this. And I'm like, yeah, you don't need to reply to it. Well, but she said, well, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Does it directly addressing an emergency with the kid right now? No, leave it alone. You know what I mean? And that's the hardest thing for people to get over. The hardest thing out of all this is what is my part in this, right? And that's what I see a lot of with people. And, so I've been in this since 2017. And, last year I finally had to start pulling back because that just kind of, I had to look at the people that I was surrounding myself with, because part of what I also did too is when I quit my job, which was no 9 to 5, but right. And which that's been my whole life. I've never been a 9 to 5-er. I owned my first business at 12 years old. And, within a year,
was it?
Just mowing yards.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. But that thing grew. By the next year, I had 3 employees, 3 of my buddies that I hired for me. All right. So that's who I am. Right. And so now I quit all that. And I moved down here to Fort Worth, and I'm looking at the system, right? Well, the system has a box, right? And it's impossible. You can't take every family dynamic and fit it into this box, right? So I'm like, okay, I need to fit myself into the box. And, went and got a 9 to 5 and absolutely miserable. I worked that for 5 years and 9 months. Down to the day, because that's how much I hated that. 5 years and 9 months I was into that. Did the 9 to 5 thing, and did the advocacy stuff. did the 9 to 5, which was great on the 9 to 5 thing because it allowed me to be involved for advocacy stuff, right? And then even though I was pissed off about having, basically 4 to 6 days a month, well, I've got these other days, this other 24 to 26 days a month. What am I going to do with this? And, and I was involved in Texas in 2 different legislative sessions, active in my local county and the conventions and understanding the politics and how all that works and all around 50-50 and laws and all that. And so that provided that, but that gave me a great mindset on it and a different perspective on parenting. So, and then ultimately, the biggest thing that came out of all that was, for the first time ever in my life, I established a relationship with God. And out of everything that I deal with, if you're going to have this conversation with me, that's what's going to come up, because that's what makes me tick. I'm not a religious person. I'm not going to thump it over your head, but this is what's gotten me through, and this is what's helping me grow, and this is what's gotten me to where I'm at now in my personal life, my professional life, and as a parent, is my relationship with God and how I apply that every single day in my life. Because
that's good news.
All these trials and tribulations we're all through God, right? And we can sit back and we can look at things as being negative and horrible, or we can take self-accountability and look at things and come up with a plan and, give it to God and let's move forward.
It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
My jam is just, it's give it to God.
Tell me, so how did you come into this connection with God, and what's been the benefit you've gotten out of it?
So the guy that I was pissed off about sitting in his office his name's Don, and he worked for New Day Services, the nonprofit in Fort Worth that I was telling you about. And it's because of him. And he didn't throw it at me. He just kept planting seeds. I kept asking questions. And a year later, I finally made that commitment. It took me a while to make that commitment because I know all, right? I know how to run my life. I don't want to surrender all of this. And so it took me a year. And a year later, I made that decision. Actually, I met him in October of 17. And then August of 18 is when I got baptized. And actually, that same guy, his name's Don, he baptized me as well. So that's how that came about.
Very
and
cool.
It's just been a growing process since then. And, I wouldn't be where I'm at now if it wasn't for that. Because, I sat down here and I worked this 9 to 5 in Texas. And essentially, I've got these skills. I've got gifts, right? And I'm just ignoring them, and it's going all by the wayside. So it just knocking and seeking on that one. And I woke up one day and I said, I'm done, and I'm going back to Wyoming. And I'm gonna and my business partner up there, I got a hold of him and I said, hey man, literally, it was a simple text. I said, I'm done in Texas. Well, let me know what's up. He said, well, and I got a text right back. He said, we'll talk in the morning. And the next morning, I'm at my 9 to 5, and he calls me about 9 o'clock in the morning. And it took us about 5 minutes to put a deal together. And I walked in that afternoon and gave him my 2 weeks. And then 2 days later, they ended up letting me go. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys letting me go, right?
Thanks for the early leave.
You talked about this idea of surrender. And I think surrender is such a powerful experience and place to be at. And I think most people they see surrender as like quitting or giving up. Tell me about your experience with surrender, how that has affected you in this experience of being a dad and trying to be in your daughter's life as much as possible.
Man, it's not giving up, because we all have free will, right? And we all fall short. yeah, that was the biggest thing, you know. I think that's why it took me so long to finally come to that realization, because that's the way I viewed it, as giving up.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't giving up, man. Holding on to everything, it's like carrying a backpack with however many rocks. Like, why are you gonna tote that around? Oh, because I can do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have resilience. I can do this on my own, essentially. But once you finally surrender, right? And which it's hard, because in order to surrender also comes into the trust and the follow. I have a hard time trusting in something beyond me. I have a hard time following. You know, I don't want to follow, right?
Yeah.
And most of us don't. But when you look at it for what it is, that when you do surrender, to say that I can't do this on my own, all these feelings, emotions, all these things moving around in life, I can't do this. I can't. You know,
Right.
so once you get to that point, man, that's when you are uplifted. That's when you start seeing the value of your gifts. That's when you start seeing the huge impact that you have on people, the influence. Because it's not about being a Bible thumper in the verses and all this. Like, I don't know one Bible. Well, I might know, maybe know one or two, but right. But it's all about looking at that in application. And the importance of it is when you start walking that, you build influence with people, because people see that within you. And then they start going, right? Because we live in this society of keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like, that's just the way it is. But when you start walking that walk with God and giving everything to God, you look different. And people start looking at you and they go, well, I want what he's got.
Right. Well, yeah, you start doing things in a different way, right? Like you no longer have this resistance and need to revenge and, you know, fighting against this thing. Like, it is what is. And I think surrender, the most important thing I've gotten from surrender in my life, is that it's not giving up, it's not quitting, it's not, you know, stopping doing what you're doing. It's acknowledging that this is what is right now in the situation, and I can't change what is. All I can do is my reaction to what is, and how I'm going to go forward, being my best self, playing with what I am dealt with. Like, these are the cards I'm dealt with. I went to the nth degree. I went to court. You know, same thing with you, right? Went to court. I thought for sure I'm gonna get 50-50. I mean, if any dad deserves half the time, it's freaking this guy. So, but my judge thought otherwise, and it's like the same thing with your story, right? Like, I'm moving to Fort Worth, Texas. I'm gonna live in Fort Worth, Texas, so I can be there for my daughter. There's no reason that this judge is going to not just see how committed and focused I really am. And then having him do that when he was against you in that spot and gave you every other weekend, you weren't surrendered at that point in time, right? Were you in resistance? And
well, you know, in my situation, we didn't go to final trial, which that's what they have in Texas. You have your initial, you know, get everything established. But in Texas, part of a requirement in the Texas family law is before final trial is mediation. And we went to mediation, and we were in mediation for 8 hours, and we got nowhere on that. But fast forward another 4 or 5 months from our mediation, we were literally like a month away from our final trial date. And she finally ended up agreeing. And I was asking what was within the guidelines, right? But I'm glad she decided to go ahead and settle out on what was within the parameters of the family law code, because I didn't have any more money.
Right.
You know, and if I was going to go to final trial, I had to come up with 10 grand after I'd already shelled out probably 25. You know, so anyways, we didn't go all the way through, you know, but the bottom line of it is, in Texas, with my journey, and being able, you know, because in Texas, the courts the judges, the family court, the family court judges that are within a jurisdictional county, they're elected. And then within a district judge, they're elected. Anyways, all the judges are elected, right? And then they have associate judges underneath them, which are appointed. But anyway, so since I was involved in the political realm, I was meeting these people, who are running or rerunning or whatever the case may be. And man, you mentioned 50-50. And it's like, you might as well had said, hey, I want to cut your leg off and beat you with it.
Right.
Right. So
no way.
Which was really,
we
you must really hate your kids wanting 50-50. It says,
jeez, why would you do that?
Yeah. It's like, oh, this is, and I had the opportunity to speak with people about 50-50. And here's the thing. I think I had the ability to get people to listen to me because I never spoke at it from a father's perspective. I spoke at it from a child's perspective because I went through it when I was 8 years old.
I was going to ask you about that when you were talking about it before. Just your parents were divorced when you were younger, or?
Yeah, I was 8 when they divorced, and my brothers were 3. I have twin brothers. They're 5 years younger than me. So they were 3 and I was 8. And so anyways, I just spoke at it from that perspective.
Yeah. What kind of things did you say when your perspective as being an 8-year-old kid when your parents went through divorce? How was that on you, being an 8-year-old kid going through divorce?
Oh, it sucked. It was horrible. And once I went through my mess and I started getting educated on how things worked, I got real mad at both my parents because I'm like, you guys are both idiots, right? Well, I'm glad I got over that. And they weren't idiots. They were just doing status quo. That's what you do. You get divorced. Somebody gets primary. The other parent gets every other weekend, and that's it. You go on with life.
Yeah.
And no parent ever thought about their kid's perspective, because it wasn't ever brought up. Because now you're looking at you're looking at it. It takes generational shift to get things done, right? So my parents' generation, which is 62, 63, basically right at the ass end of the boomer generation. They didn't consider that stuff. And that's just because of how they were raised, right? They didn't have social media. They didn't have internet. I mean, hell, my grandparents, when I was a kid, they still had the rotary phone, so
right.
Heck yeah. Good old days.
Yeah, they just came up with this stuff and, hey, this is what you do and this is what makes sense. Well, then now fast forward another generation. Now you have these kids that are now adults going through this stuff, and they're not okay with it because they went through it as a kid.
Right, exactly.
Hey, I wanted both my parents in any way I possibly can. You know what I mean? I mean, my mom was the typical custodial parent. My mom and dad would get into fights, and I would hear my mom always drop, well, we can go back to court. And then my dad's over there bitching about having to pay child support.
Right.
Right. The things that aren't the most important thing, like how are we being here for our kids, helping raise them? That's what it's about, right? And they're focused on other things that aren't as important.
Right. Is what's interesting too about my situation when I was growing up, and I feel a lot of people can relate to this is, before my parents got divorced, I mean, it was, my dad's perspective was just work, and he worked all the time. My dad ran a body shop, and I mean, he was very good at it. I mean, that's as far as work ethic, I got that from both my parents, that's how I started my career was in painting, right? But it was industrial side, not auto paint, but it's because of him. But that's all they knew. This is what you do. This is what you work, right? Well, then now my parents are separated, and my dad's not showing up for stuff. I was in football, and my mom's getting pissed because my dad's not showing up. Well, he's at the shop, right? But it's like you're sitting here, you're telling somebody you need to show up, you need to be a dad, but at the same time, you're only giving them every other weekend.
Yep.
So how can you expect somebody to go the extra mile when you're not even giving them the opportunity to even go that extra mile.
Right.
And at any time, if you give that opportunity for the extra mile, the power side can pull it back.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So just take it away.
Yep.
Just take it away at a whim. Yeah. On a whim.
And I watched all this nonsense, and that was my perspective. And that's why I made such drastic changes in my life. And I just abruptly went and quit a 6-figure income job that I had complete 110% security in with all the fringe benefits. Like, it didn't get much better in my industry on where I was standing. And I gave it all up thinking that because I was looked at it as I was the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't get more than every other weekend because I'm living this lifestyle. Okay, cool. I'm giving it up. And then come to find out that, hey, in the state of Texas, you've got 2 schedules. One's 4 days, one's 6 days a month. That's it.
Yep.
That's all you get. And if you mention 50-50, it's like, oh, you're a horrible person. You're trying to get out of paying child support.
Right. Can we give him 3 days for this one? Like, if we can give him 3 days, let's do that. Yeah. It's yeah. No, I think that's one of the really, really awful things and stuff. Did your judge use that? Did he talk about you moving back and that kind of stuff in his decision about your case?
No. So the judge, we were in court 3 different times. I know one time I was pissed because I was fighting down a restraining order, and it was completely bullshit. I spent $8,000 in one day for nothing. And anyways, long story short, I beat this restraining order. And
I got a K. He's camping outside of where I died.
Somebody's got change. I can hear it in the background. No.
Yep, that's him.
You hear that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna mute myself.
No, you're good. But
if there's background noise, just hold on. Sorry, there you can hear it, Zach. There's background noise a lot. Why don't you say something?
I was texting.
It's children. That's why we're here. It's
they
kids
are behind the screen. Watch out. Who are the kids behind the screen? That's what we want to know.
Yeah, I know, right? We all got them.
There we go.
They gave. I never had an in-court ruling from the judge. Everything was done after the fact, and it was sent to the attorneys. So I never got any feedback from the judge, so to speak.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. It was a win because the whole thing that the other side was seeking was supervised visits. I was never put on supervised visits. I was never denied anything. I got nothing more than every other weekend, but I didn't get anything less than every other weekend. So it was a win in my book, right? I navigated the system right, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I got what I got the extended order, the extended standard in Texas is what it's called.
Okay.
So
I got Sunday nights into Monday. Is that what it was? Like a Sunday night? It
runs from every other Thursday through Monday, and then it's first, third, fifth Thursday through Monday, and then when it's your off weekend, so it'd be the second and fourth, you get every Thursday overnight, and all the pickup and drop offs happen at school, which I had that tied our settlement up for like 6 months. She wouldn't agree to that. And it's just like, dude, look, I'm trying to cut chaos out of here. I don't want to see you. I don't, none of this, but
that's almost like, is that almost like 60-40 basically?
No.
Thursday to Monday?
No, it's 70-30. It breaks down. Here's the thing. There's a lot of argument in this, but here's my argument on it. Last time I checked, there's 24 hours in a day. If I get to see my daughter for 2 hours, that doesn't count for a day.
Right.
So the way that they make it look is, yes, they do come out and say that this extended standard on what I just explained is almost 50-50. Well, it's not. Because it's 6.5 days. Because like I said, there's 24 hours in a day. Okay. So, essentially, you have all day when it's your first, third, fifth, you have all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and you have another additional day, a half a day on Thursday, half a day on Monday, right? Because the day starts at 12 a.m.
Right.
So, that's just how it breaks down. So the standard possession order in Texas, gosh, and I can't remember the numbers. I used to be able to spot these things off like nothing. I believe it's like an 80-20, and then the extended standard is like a 60-30 or something like that, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I think mine here in South Dakota with what I got with my son's mom, which is what Tom Pischke got passed here in South Dakota 2 years ago. There's an extended like a 3-day weekend twice a month, basically every other weekend, and as like the minimum now. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights of every weekend, and so it makes it go, and then 1 day during each week. So it goes like Wednesdays, every
Friday,
Wednesday,
Saturday, Sunday.
Every Wednesday overnight long, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you have one weekday every week, and it's overnight. So it's not just 2 hours for dinner or something like that on a Monday, but every night. And how I have it here, I actually I spend more waking hours with my son than my son's mom does, but she's a custodial parent. So I get him every morning before school for an hour and a half or so. I know it's okay. And she likes it. I get to help her out, and she doesn't have to pay anybody. So, but and my son loves it. Absolutely just dies for getting the chance to spend every morning with me. His mom wakes him up on her days. She drops him off at my house. We spend the morning together. I feed him, get him ready, and then we go to school. And then I pick him up from school every single day at 2:30, and I get her until 5 o'clock, 5:30, whenever she gets off of work. And then, she feeds him dinner and puts him to bed. So I really get the best time. We play games. We go outside. We threw footballs today. But the time that I spend, which is every single day with my son, counts for nothing. Like if you go to the courts and they look at how much time we get, she has all the overnights. I get the state minimum, and that is how they recognize it, and regardless of my actual impact and time that I spend with them. And I think that's really unfortunate, and that time should be counted. But you know how the system works. It's not about giving you time and counting the time. It's about minimizing the amount they can give you and show, so they can then make the most money for the state, right?
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. I won't ever forget. I had a senator here in Texas tell me straight to my face. He said, Texas will not ever pass 50-50 because we will not restructure the child support system because of Title 4D. Because he goes, me and you both know, he goes, this session, because we were in the middle of a legislative session when him and I had this conversation. He said, this session 50-50 passes. He goes, next session, he goes, now it'll be child support reform. And he said, he goes, not even putting pen to pencil, but he said, just kind of looking at it in the grand scheme of things, because he said, I know there's a lot of parents who do want 50-50. He said, you're looking at probably the state giving up $20 to $30 million a year. He said, where's the state going to find that other 20-30 million?
Yeah, way more than that.
He said the state of Texas is already over budget anyways.
Right. Right. Because it's more about the cash money than it is about the kids. And that's the most disgusting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so I got, because of that.
Go ahead.
Say it again.
So because of that conversation, oh geez, we did it again. Because of that conversation with that senator, I made the decision to get out of it, because I'm like, this is never going to change. And and here's the thing, I value my time, and I gave up a lot of my time to advocate on whether I was walking with clients, whether I was facilitating classes, whether I was involved with the legislative side of it, the politics and all that. I guarantee you, I was giving up, I was working 40 to 50 hours a week, and I was probably matching that a week into all the other stuff that I was doing with that. So, I really started looking at my time, and I'm like, here's the thing. Here's what's going to change this. Legislation, the government is not going to change this. It's people. And it's people making the right decisions before they lay down and decide to make that decision with that other person. Basically, am I laying down with the right person? And it's gotten so loose, right? And I'm one of them. That was, I didn't really care for her. It was whatever. And she didn't really care for me. The only reason that she wanted to be around me is because I was spending the money for whatever she wanted to go do. It was a fun time,
Right. And I mean, you shouldn't be punished for that kind of stuff. And it is important, like making those decisions with that frame of mind that, the results that I get, but most people don't even know the results that would come out of this experience, right? Like their parents got divorced or they didn't get divorced. They see friends getting divorced and stuff. It doesn't even cross their minds when they're in that experience until all of a sudden you have a kid and now you're like, holy smokes, like I have to make this work, right? Especially as a guy, I got to make this work because odds are I lose. If we aren't an intact relationship.
Well, and even if you are, there's a high chance you're going to lose anyway. Somebody's going to lose. It's like 60% chance you're going to lose, right?
I think it's 85% chance for a guy, I think. But
still, I mean, a marriage, intact family relationship, like 60, probably.
You look. I challenge y'all to look at it this way. At the end of the day, the kid loses. Neither one of the parents. Because here's the thing. Typically, statistically speaking, most people go through a divorce or family breakup in between the ages of 3 and 5. It's somewhere, and it might be 6 or 7 now. So your child turns 18. So really, this only upshifts and topples your world for 10 to 12 years. What's it do to that kid?
Right.
Dude, when I started going through these classes and facilitating these classes, that's when I really started working on my childhood wounds from my parents, both my parents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 6-7 years since I've talked to my dad. The only relationship that I have is with my mom.
What are the things? What are the ones that you had as a child? That you worked on and stuff? What were the things that were affecting you even to 5 years ago?
Yeah.
I became a top producer, and I tried to produce as much as I could to be as successful as I could. I started climbing the chain. I started making 6 figures when I was 26 years old, so I could get my dad to look at me for a second time. I was paying to have a relationship with my dad and my grandfather at that matter too. Now, my grandfather changed a little bit in his later years, but my dad never understands, still to this day. I don't know, but I don't think he understands the impact of being a father and how much I needed him, because essentially I was getting my information from all over the place on how do I navigate what is a man, right? What determines my value as a man? What should I do? All these things in life that I need guidance on, and I'm going to all these places because what I'm getting from my dad is, well, just work hard. Okay, cool. That's what I did.
Right.
And I was, and it was just so important to me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because let's think about it. I'm not, tooting my own horn here, but who the hell is 25, 26 years old making 6 figures with no college education?
Oil field workers.
That's what drove me.
Right.
I was close.
Yeah. Y'all live in Casper. I know what's going on in Casper. Guys slinging that black gold all over the place.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you know what's up? That oil money.
Oh,
you know, but
man.
the thing about it is too. Yeah, but the thing about it is too, that's an unhealthy lifestyle. If you do compared to
12,
where my
I
life
work
is
12
right
hours
now.
a day, at least 12 hours a day, at least 6 days a week for, I mean, way over 10 years. Like my older kids, like I feel like I missed the majority of their childhood, but I mean, that's what I felt like I had to do. Which it's sad, but yeah, you miss everything, really. I mean,
well, I think one of the things that Paul said was really intuitive, like or insightful, was that his dad, you know, basically his dad's advice was just go out there and produce more, right? Like you don't need to be around the house. You don't need to be, you know, to be a dad is just to go out there and make more money and give more financially and be gone. And that's kind of like that old generational train of thought, right? Like his parents and grandparents were the ones that started these laws in the 70s and 60s. And they're the ones that kind of and they just grew up with this being the norm, that dads basically went to work, mom stayed home, took care of the family and stuff. But moms and dads now all work full-time jobs, if not more than that. And
it's completely different.
A new paradigm in our society, and it's changed. But what hasn't changed is the way that we treat parents and kids with respect to having this relationship now. And so we have one parent basically being held away from the kid for child support, and the other parent is then having the village, right? The village take care of their kids and putting them in babysitters and all these different places to take care of their kids. That way, you know, they have somewhere to go because the other parent is being held away. And because that's the norm, they usually aren't even asking the other parent to take over and have that responsibility, even though I think that if you ask the other parent in very many situations, most dads that I know, you know, and of course the guys that come to talk to me are the guys that want to be involved, right? Those guys would jump over backwards. They would do, you know, backflips and freaking, they would learn how to dunk a basketball or whatever it took, you know, like whatever I needed to do, I would do it to get to have that extra time with their kids. And I think that's a huge difference from what our parents' tradition is. And my dad's advice for me was just work hard. I mean, my dad worked. I got to see my dad when like, you know, when he coached my sports. And that was my dad's only experience and stuff. And my life was when he coached sports or when I got in trouble with my mom. And so if my mom was good and my dad was working, I didn't have much interaction with my dad. It was very minimal. And his whole thing was about working. He loved to work. And so when I started going through the situation and I wanted to be involved in my son's life, my dad's advice was give up on it. Don't do it, you know. And he's never been a fan of the things that I've been doing. He's always been like, just why are you doing this much stuff? Like, take the weekend you get, be quiet, and just go do your job and get your satisfaction from that. And I just don't see that in our generation now, and then the ones that are coming after us, that just doing a job is not where the satisfaction comes from. That being part of that family and having that opportunity to have that impact in your kids' lives, that is where the real joy and satisfaction really comes. And without that, you're really in trouble, you know. And it sounds like, Paul, your dad gave you very similar advice to my dad, right?
You know, and that's the thing. And you know, I always kind of wonder if he goes and watches some of these things, because I don't know how many podcasts I've been on and different platforms and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I put a bunch of videos out on Tough over the years. But, you know, the thing about it is, you know, there people are just working on what they have. And, you know, the Industrial Revolution really changed America, right? And that's where it really became on the whole structure of the W-2. And whatever, somebody wants to be a W-2 in a 9-to-5, hey, that's all the power to you. Go do it. I'm not talking crap on that. How we run our business is we need people like that, right? I mean, you know, we've changed our business structure to put people up on a platform to do better for themselves. Now we no longer hire employees anymore. We want them to be their own entity, and we want to flat rate these jobs. And it's a win-win, because if they get, you know, we have a contract set amount, and, you know, there's contingencies in there with bad weather, equipment failure, and stuff like that. But like, for example, like this contract that we're doing in Lubbock, Texas, about each person on an average is going to make $28,000. Okay. I've got it in my contract that we need to have this job done in 3 to 4 weeks, no more than 4 weeks. If they go out and bust it out and get it done in 2 weeks, they're still getting paid the same amount. Wow. So that self-incentivizes people, and that's what we're doing as a business, right? Because that changes our margins, that changes our resources, because we don't need to be out there having a project manager looking over people and stuff like that. So, and that's not just our structure, that's our society now. Look at all the online businesses, everything's changing. There's so many different ways of doing business. Like we're in recycling windmill turbine blades. And Casper's a big deal. We were in the news,
we're just still burying them, right? Is that what we're doing? We're just burying them?
No.
They stopped?
Luckily, now there's a company in Casper that shreds them and recycles them. I don't know who that would be, but
it sounds a really cool company.
It's interesting. It's a new market and all that stuff, but anyway, I got on this a minute ago, and for everybody watching, I get it. My whole message is, you can make the choice. Are you going to stay in the mess? Are you going to volunteer for that? Because here's the thing. My mindset is there's no victims. There's only volunteers. Whatever happens to you in life, you can volunteer to get into that, or you can not, right? And hey, all right there, I've volunteered for it, right? But essentially all this stuff, we have a choice. And I encourage everybody to sit there and go, I'm not going to be a volunteer of this, and I am going to move on with life. Because where I was at for 5 years and 9 months, I was showing my daughter how to give up. That's essentially what I was doing. Yeah. Did I navigate the system and all this other stuff? Yeah, sure. But essentially, what was I doing? I was giving up on myself. I was giving up on my gifts, my capabilities, right?
Yeah.
So you have to get out of that mess mentality and don't volunteer for that, because America's a little messed up, but we're still a great country, and there is so many opportunities. Like literally, I'm making money right now by passing contracts and paper. Essentially, hell, it's not even a piece of paper. It's a DocuSign, digital document now, right?
Right.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a dream, right? And so you can be there for your daughter. I don't know if you can, but you could be there. You could be there from school, right? Because you have that flexibility now. You're just signing contracts. You can do them all until she out of school. You could have her, and then the evening time, you can spend the evening time sending off documents and that kind of stuff, and continue to keep doing your job, even though it doesn't work, to have that flexibility. And I think that's such a powerful thing, is that if you can choose flexibility, if you can get that in your life, it gives you just an opportunity to really do different things, like for your kids and for yourself. Right.
Yeah. And see, like the comment here that says, anyone volunteers or signs up to get, she goes, I don't think anyone volunteers or signs up to get lynched. Right. That's your victim mentality. You're going to stay in it. I'm sorry. Right. And I'm not trying to be ugly or mean or anything.
Hey, that's why we're here.
But
right. Well, I mean,
that's it. You're in that comment, that person that made that comment, you're in the mess, and you're choosing to be,
but you're not necessarily saying walk away, give up. It's just a completely different approach to how you take it on. You're not saying just forget it.
Yeah.
Some people would take it as just forget it. No.
Yeah. It's a whole mindset. How are you going to perceive and look at life? And Zach and I, we kind of had this conversation on some different opportunities, 4 or 5 days ago, and here's the thing about what we do too, right? Why it's so important not to give up on ourselves, because everybody's at different stages and at a different pace in life. And, not to put out everything that we talked about, Zach, but, essentially it's about going, okay, we have these ideas. What opportunities can we provide for other people? And if you're not going that extra mile to look at that, you're giving up. That is giving up. right? Because I have a gift, you have a gift, Alyssa's got a gift, right? We all have something, right? But if we give up on ourselves, we're shortchanging everybody. Because here's the thing, right? We're talking about businesses and generating businesses and so on and so forth. Now, with our perspective, we generate a business and we have somebody that works for us directly or whatever the case may be, and they're going through this situation. We're going to understand it, right? And we're going to be able to work around it and present the opportunity to where you don't get comments like this, though, where, nobody volunteers, but we just get lynched, right?
Right.
It's all about opportunity. It's all about perspective.
You chose that person, right? You stayed there. You chose to have sex. You chose maybe to have sex before you knew who this person really was. And you chose to have a kid with somebody that put you in a spot. I mean, there's a lot of choices that you made throughout the whole entire process to get you in a place where you are today. And then I think one of the things you said earlier on in this interview that we were talking about, which I thought was really impactful, was your part, right? Like when you started going through the stuff at the nonprofit, and man, I am blanking on the name of it, but the nonprofit that you've been going through down there at Fort Worth, that with those guys, you started realizing how you showed up, how you made these choices and put yourself in this position where these things happened, and that you had lost control because you had given that control up because of the choices you were making. You're wilding out, having a good time, and enjoying a girl and enjoying the fruits of your labor, and weren't thinking about, are these choices right for me, and is this going to give me the results I want to have in my life? You were just living in the moment, and without that forethought, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm glad that you said that, because what we were talking about, the generational shift, that's why it's so important for all of us to be intentional, because this is all about intentions, right? On how we handle our kids, how we talk to our kids, how we raise our kids. And it doesn't matter. I don't care whether you got boys or girls. It's all the same, right? Because they're going to make those choices, because they have the ability to make bad decisions and all of that stuff. But your intention has to be right. You have to keep focused on doing the next right thing. And you have to think, and here's what's hard about a parent, because part of being a parent is we're almighty and we know, right? So we have to understand the power of getting on our kids' level, which is below us. And as long as you're doing that and you establish that in your parenting foundation with your kids, it's going to make things so much easier. And here's the better payoff of it. They're going to decide to have a relationship with you as a child or as an adult. That's the ultimate payoff of parenting, is for them to decide to have a relationship with you as an adult, and to see them move as an adult, make great decisions, and to be a part of that process. And that all stems from how you set your foundation as a parent with them, getting on their level and walking with them through their journey.
Right.
It's a good message. I think it's a good message.
I love it. It's exactly what it's all about, right? Like you have a chance to have an impact in their lives and stuff. I was with my son this weekend and my girlfriend's son. We spent the weekend together, and a 7 and 8 year old, right? They go at it and make poor choices and stuff. And I was like, this is your chance to learn. Like you guys are learning how to interact and how to get along and how to make the right choice to do the right thing. And that every time you get a chance in your life, you're going to get this chance to make that right choice. And then you get to keep doing it, and you get to keep learning. And then it's a learning process throughout all of life. I mean, I don't make the right choices every time, but that every time I do, especially now, I recognize the choice that I made and I see where I messed up. And then I just work and focus on making sure I make the right choice the next time that comes up. The next time I have an opportunity to make a choice like that, I analyze that before I start making choices. Before I, get mad and yell at my son, I think about it. Like, what is it about me that's triggered by my son's actions? Because it's about my triggering. It's not about the things he does. Like he's doing what a natural 6-year-old does. They're wild animals. It's the reaction comes from within me about maybe my hurt from my childhood, but that what do I need to see in myself to go out there and relate with him and help him see where he's learning, where he's coming from, and then grow in that experience. And so I take that stuff really serious. And I love hearing you talk about it, Paul, because it's so powerful, that opportunity that we have to really have that impact, and that boys and girls both need to be taught how they show up and think about what they're doing and the choices that they're making, and that they have a choice every moment, that you might have been a liar in the last moment, right? But that you can choose now to tell the truth. And that every moment going forward, if you want to be known as a truthful person, you get to tell the truth. If you want to be known as a hard worker, if you want to be known as disciplined, you get to choose discipline every moment, or hard work in every moment. And you get to do that over and over again. Every chance that you have, every moment that you get is a choice. You can choose to not do it, or you can choose to do it. And that choice is all yours every single day, every moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to take it right back to the free will thing, though, just real quick, because I didn't get defensive, but I thought about my own personal situations. And I think there's a lot of parents that are going to go, regardless of how much the courts allowed me to be involved for whatever amount of time, I feel like as a parent, I did everything as right as I possibly could. And I tried to raise my kids as right as I possibly could. And personal experience, I mean, I have children right now that kind of grew up, made some really bad choices, are trying to do the right thing. They're kind of doing their own thing. And, most of the time they choose not to talk to me. So, I mean, there's different aspects of everything, and there's different experiences to everything. And like I said, I just wanted to take it back to the free will part of it, because I think there's a lot of us that feel like we did everything we could possibly do, and still, kids grow up and they're gonna disappoint themselves, and they're gonna disappoint you a little bit, and they're gonna live and learn through it, I suppose. But free will.
Right, and that's surrender, right? I mean, go on about surrender, Paul.
Yeah,
that's a surrender.
Surrender.
Moment, right? Like,
it is. Definitely.
I gotta give it up to God in this moment. Like I did all that I could with all that I had in those moments, and I did my best, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's all you can do. And then you have to surrender to the experience of, like, this is what's happening, and I can't change what was. All I can do is be here now, doing what I can to have a different outcome in the future.
And just real quick, we've talked about it before, but there's stages to all of this, what we go through in trying to be parents to our kids. And then, like, the situation that I just kind of talked about, but then we find our kids eventually in these situations. And so as a parent, it's absolutely terrible knowing the consequences of, being an unwed father, somebody that's educated about that, having to educate their supposedly grown child about that and explain to them, like, well, you decided to do this with this person, and this is what's happening now. So these are all of your choices. This is the road you can take, this direction, and have to fight for your life if you want to be a part of the child's life. And this is the other road you can take. And I mean, who knows? Maybe eventually end up having to do the same thing. So yeah, I guess generationally, it's kind of weird how things like that work out. But yeah.
Well, that's the important part, I feel, about seeking that relationship and being a believer in doing that, because it makes you, or it encourages you to be more intentional about whatever relationship that you deal with, because the whole thing is we all do fall short, right? And the whole thing is to sin less, right? Because we do fall short, and we are going to make those mistakes, and we are horrible people, right? But the beauty of it is we do have that free will. And once we decide to make that decision, then we do receive that grace and that love, right? And that gives us release on those bad decisions that we have made. And what we can do is make better decisions moving forward through grace, through peace, through love that we can't do on our own. And even when those bad decisions are whatever, the crap in the past, right? So the crap's already there. So what can you do is you just try to change to move forward, right? And we talked, I spoke about influence, and this is why influence is so important, because people are going to see those changes. You know, I mean, there is nothing more that I would love. Like right now at this moment, it would be great if my dad were to call me and I could just have a conversation with him. As much as I hated him and despised him and the decisions that he made, if he were to call me now on where I'm at in my life and my journey and my walk with my relationship with God, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to talk to him and I'm going to listen. I'm not going to talk to him. I'm going to listen to him. But if I didn't have that before, I wouldn't even answer that call. You know, so with that being said, because we there's no such thing as a perfect parent. I don't give a damn who you are, what you're doing, right? It's so nonsense. People go on about perfect parenting. Like, I don't have time for your fakeness, right? You know, but right. the thing about that is because of that is you never know what the possibility may be, but until you surrender, you'll never know.
Mm-hmm. You never know. I think surrender is one of the most impactful things that I've ever had in my life, and the most joy and satisfaction I've had in my life, especially in the last 7 years since my son's been alive, has been when I finally surrendered to the experience that I was going through, as opposed to trying to fight it, trying to fight all this stuff, trying to battle everybody, trying to take down the courts, take down the lawyers, destroy child support and DFS all at the same time. I used to go up to the building. I would go in there and pay my child support in person because I wanted to ride the elevator up 5 levels in this gigantic brick building downtown Cheyenne, Wyoming, and feel the power of the dark side as it imposed itself upon me for my $700 a month. And I would do that every month because I wanted to feel that, right? And I got to defeat these guys. And when I surrendered to they're just doing their job, it's not me against them. This is about me being my best in this moment. And how do I make a better change so that way other people aren't putting themselves in the spot to have to be taken by the court systems? That if we can get families to agree to work together and do shared parenting because parents know that it's the right thing to do, and people now are getting divorced and just doing that without the court systems dictating and destroying families, then we're going to do such a better job. Like you said, that guy, that legislator, I think as we talked about, made that comment that it's not going to be the legislators that are going to change it. They want that money, and the state needs that money. They got to balance budgets and all these kind of things, and they do a really horrible job at that. And so they're using kids and riding off of kids' backs to then pay for the bills of them being ineffective in managing our budgets and our state's funds. And so because of that, they got to use kids more and more. I mean, it's the same thing that goes into the school systems, right? They're making money off our kids. Our kids are the biggest money maker for our states all over the place. In every single category, they just use these kids to make funds. So, I think what you said about that is just really powerful and stuff. So, Paul, what do you have going on? I know we're getting close to the end here, and want to get you back to your night. But what's your plans going forward, and what are some things that you really want to focus on and let people know to end today's call?
Right now, I've taken back that power, right? I'm not going to allow the system to suppress me. And essentially, I mean, really, every single day is about putting God first and what God wants me to do. I've got 2 businesses that I'm working on right now. Working on the real estate stuff, and then now we got out of the industrial services game, which is very cutthroat, and now we've tapped into this new market with doing recycling windmill turbine blades. So that's my primary focus. And I've got goals with that. Right. And the whole drive behind those goals is to be able to be there, because that's ultimately my ministry, and to be there to create opportunities for people, because I do understand all of this nonsense, right? And everybody that's going through this, you need to think outside the box. Don't be pushed into the box, because that's what I did, and that's not a place that you want to be. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. I promise you that. Just keep focused on doing the next right thing, not only for yourself, but for your kids. Because like we were talking about kids, like, being a liar, like you can't sit there and tell your kids, don't be a liar, and then you're lying, right? They're not listening to the words that you're saying. They're looking at the things that you're doing. So be very intentional about what you do every day, even if your kids are not in your life physically every single day, or maybe at all, whatever the case may be. Just keep focused on doing that. And it's very hard to do. And I totally get it. I mean, I went months without seeing my kid. So, look at the situation for what it is and push forward.
Yeah. Stay focused. That's such a powerful message at the end. I mean, do the next right thing. I think Anna said it best in Frozen 2, but the Frozen, what is it?
That's like one of my favorite things to think of and do. It's just like, do the next right thing. It's no joke.
It is no joke.
It's real.
A choice every moment. People know who you have been, but if you make a choice right now and do the next right thing in every single moment, that they're going to know you in the future, and everybody's going to meet you is going to know you as that person who does all those right things. And so, like you said, no matter what, lying, cheating, stealing, whatever it is that you've done in your life, people are going to see you for who you are in that moment. And if you say who you want to be at and you live that every single day, that's what's going to get you the results you want to have. So anyways, love the call. Paul, man, thanks for getting to hang out, man. I loved our call we had the other day. Today was fantastic. So I appreciate you taking the time and spending some time with us. I look forward to doing it with you again, man. Have a wonderful night.
I just wanted to say I absolutely appreciated your testimony, and I think there's a lot of other people that will appreciate it too, and I just think it's great. So thank you so much.
That's why we got to keep doing what we're doing, and especially the importance of what you guys are doing, because we all know that there's all these other groups out there, and they put their message out there, and it's the iron fist and shake your hand at the system. And what you guys is doing is very great. I've been meaning to get a hold of you, Alicia, because I've been watching what you guys are doing, and I'm like, oh man, because it's been years since I've talked to you.
We're trying.
Keep pushing.
Why? Yeah, no, we will. We're committed to doing this for the next year already, and we got a lot of stuff coming up with legislation in Wyoming and in South Dakota, and so I'm passing the bar here February 21st in South Dakota, and then it's on. So this is what it's about. So I just appreciate you guys, and
thank you, Zach.
Paul. Yeah, thank you, man. Paul, have a wonderful night, man. Happy New Year. I wish you all the best blessings, and I look forward to talking to you again and working on the stuff we talked about in that phone call. I think it's going to be fantastic working together with you, man. So have a great night.
Absolutely. Y'all too. Thanks.
All right, man. See it. All right. Alicia, well, she left also. I'm going to do this all myself.
No.
She's back.
Are we still live?
We're still live. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was thinking, I didn't tell you that I want to do this, but I think that you and I should hang out for a few moments at the end and just kind of like wrap it up and get to say hi and stuff. And with, obviously me not letting you know about this, but I really
feel like we're done. Bye.
See ya. Peace out. Hey, I can do it all alone. So I really enjoyed that. That was a great call. I think the people we have in Wyoming that are working in Wyoming to do this stuff, like we got a great connection of people. And having Paul around, his wisdom and his experience in Texas is going to really support us in doing even better to make these changes in Wyoming. And I'm really excited for what we got going on. Felicia, what's happening in your life right now? What do you have planned for the new year? You got some big goals?
Yes. We're gonna make our podcast, these lives, they're just gonna
boom,
skyrocket into oblivion. We're gonna do that. But I got stuff going on, like I'm doing home daycare and doing some college classes on musical things, sound engineering, production type stuff. So I'm really excited for that.
That sounds like all things associated with podcasting and running social media stuff. So I like that.
I mean, it's a gig. I like gigs.
Yeah.
Love music. I like sound. I like doing things. So it's going to be the bomb. That's pretty much all I'm doing. That's it.
Fantastic.
And hanging out with you on lives. And, you know, helping anybody out if they ever need it. But that's been kind of slow lately. I don't know why, but
that's all right. Hey, you know what?
If anybody needs help with anything, paperwork wise, or questions or resources, hit up me or Zach. We can point you in the right direction. But
yeah,
what about you?
If you hit me up, I will send to Alicia until after February 21st because I am studying for the bar exam, and really
he's not going to answer his phone.
I will answer, and I'll give you Alicia's number. So because that's how I do things. I don't leave nobody hanging, but I do think that for me right now, the next 2 months, 100% commitment to this bar prep. I'm giving everything I got. I was at the gym today. At the gym, I'm watching bar prep videos and watching lectures. And I took a quiz while I was there. I got a 61%, so slightly below what I need to get. But
what is it, 63?
I need a 63. If I get a 66, I will pass 100%. So nice. I need to get a nice solid D, and I'll be a lawyer. So because that's what it takes to be a lawyer is a nice D average. It's super hard. I'm not gonna lie, but so I'm really focused on that. That's my biggest commitment right now for this year. That in the gym. And then after I'm done with that, the big thing to come right after that, before I probably get my bar license or shortly there afterwards, is going to be my Father's Day event. So we're putting on a Father's Day event here in Rapid City, South Dakota. Going to be Guinness World Record largest water gun fight ever.
The biggest one ever.
Boom! If you're gonna do it, go big, right? Let's not mess around. So I'm bringing the thunder on this one. So there is a liberal college in California. Who name not be mentioned, but they have the record right now.
They tried.
And listen, you guys can have the record for right now because nobody really tried to beat it. But we are going to have a throwdown in Memorial Park here in Rapid City, South Dakota on Father's Day. So the goal is 4,000 and more people at Memorial Park on Father's Day, and it's going to be a wonderful time. We're going to have water guns for everybody. Everybody's going to get at least a little handgun pistol, and then we're going to have people around the country coming in here and supporting. This is a huge place to come and travel to. So Mount Rushmore, the Black Hills are just incredible with tons of stuff to go do. And so if you're in the area, it's gorgeous. And Father's Day is absolutely incredible. It's not too hot. It's not too humid. It's not like East River, South Dakota, where you got bugs and stuff. We're like Wyoming light. So it's not quite as awesome as Wyoming, but it's pretty solid for South Dakota. So much love, South Dakota, but Wyoming's better. Anyways, but that's my big thing. So those are the things that are coming up. And then at that point in time, really focused on getting this business going. I have a goal for starting the Elijah's House of Hope, which is going to be a home for dads going through family court situations and giving them a place to come and live, giving them a chance to have educational classes like what Paul was talking about, and a chance to work on themselves. We're really focused on being the best we can be in every moment so we can go out there and we can give that to our kids. Your best version of you is going to set you apart and what's going to give your kids what they need to have. Because when you're your best, it's going to permission them to be their best because they're going to see that and they're going to choose in because they want that. They want to see you being the best you can be. And when you are that, it's going to help them out exponentially. So that's where I'm at. 2024 is going to be an incredible year, and I am so stoked about the non-custodials. This is going to be an amazing thing, Alicia. Yeah, baby. Let's go.
It's going to be rad.
So anyways, I'm going to let everybody go. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to go eat some dinner with my girlfriend. And Alicia, I know you got family all over the place back there. I hear the kids just like, and everybody out there, love you guys too.
There's nothing I can do. We'll talk to you later.
Deuces. I'm trying to hit end, but it's